politicians who believe in sound money. It's just that simple. I mean, Ron Paul was right. And, and we need everybody to understand that. And, I mean, I kind of believe I'm spiritual, and I kind of believe that, this whole thing is taking a path that a higher power has let us down. And, it's kind of like, well, we weren't going to get that lesson on our own. So guess what? We're going to have a very serious hyperinflation, and people are going to learn this lesson the hard way. And we're going to go back to sound money. It's funny. I have a lot of friends, and you probably do too, from other countries, and particularly South America, that's had a lot of inflations. And they really get this issue pretty well. I mean, if you live through Argentina, or if you live through Brazil, which had a couple of, if you've lived through a hyperinflation, you understand how important sound money is. The United States has been sheltered because for many, many years, we were quite responsible. We didn't have an issue with this. But sadly, just like so many other things, eventually our system deteriorated as well. And here we are, with the wrong system based on Keynesian fiat money, right? And it's a problem. It's just a problem. But I don't know if you pick the gold or the dollar, but it actually did help. And it's what needs to happen here. We need to devalue this debt because we can't pay it back. We just can't. It's going to be a painful step. But the way I talk about it in the book is like it's better to rip off the Band-Aid rather than just kind of pull it off slowly and suffer, this broken system for another 15, 20 years, And I think we're going to have to rip it off because I think events are moving in a direction now where more and more people are seeing the problem. And if you study other hyperinflations, what you see is that the currencies fail when everybody realizes that the money's no good. And right now,
but right now, not everyone has. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize it. And, I'm guessing 5% of the country probably realizes it. And 10 or 15% of the country probably suspects something's wrong, but can't put their finger on it. And both of those numbers are going to grow. And as they do, it's gonna happen. Exactly your age, but
I'm a millennial, yeah. But
yeah.
I'm in my late 30s now. I'm 37.
Right. So you guys are kind of the new hero generation, and
yeah, we are the heroes. Yeah.
You seem to be much more focused on, the overall good of society. I know my kids are much more focused on. Whereas my generation was very much focused on, I want to get mine. I want to have a BMW, or whatever it might be, and it was amazing to watch the transition too, because they went from being, stop this war and protests and everything else to, give me a suit and a BMW. It's like the big chill, right? Give me a suit and a BMW and a couple $1 million, I'll be happy. But I think, I think what society is evolving in a positive way, because I think your generation gets it, much better, that we all have to succeed together. And, that massive wealth inequality really doesn't make for a great world. But that's, it'll get fixed. Things they'll reprice and be good places to have capital. So
you mentioned in the book too, like chapter 22, I believe you talk about the fixes and the speech you would give if you were president. Can you give us some more insight into like what the fixes are?
Yeah.
Or the most important ones.
So basically, I think we need to make everything that's money, which is to say, and the proposal in the book is that we make gold, silver, Bitcoin, and the dollar, they're all legal tender, and we let them compete with each other. There's no capital gains tax on any of those. You don't pay a capital gain on a dollar. A dollar's just a dollar. If gold goes up in dollar values, there should be no tax on that because these are all forms of money. So I'd start there. Then I would say we should eliminate the Federal Reserve, just literally shut it down. If we want the dollar to survive, we should either back it by gold or back it by Bitcoin or some combination of the two. And the government, the Federal Reserve, the government, and the bankers, and the cantillionaires.
Oh yeah, you should bring that concept up. Explain the cantillionaire concept.
So if you have a system where some people can borrow money very, very cheaply and use it to buy assets, and everybody else has to, if they want to borrow money, the only real cheap money they can borrow used to be for their house. When mortgages were 3%, now they're 7%. There's really not cheap money, but you and I, we can borrow money from the credit card companies, but that's at 25%. The mob would blush, right? And so when you have a system where the people who have a lot of money and are in power and at the top of the pyramid can borrow very cheaply, they can invest that in things that give them a high yield. And so it's called the Cantillon effect. There was a guy named Richard Cantillon who was a guy back in France in the one of their great inflations, the John Law inflation, who observed that when you're printing a lot of money, the people who get it first can benefit because they can buy assets cheap. I'm not Ken Griffin. We don't get to play by those rules. The average guy doesn't get to play by those rules. The average guy gets screwed. I mean, and
they're worried about putting food on their table.
They're worried about putting food on the table, and probably a lot of them don't have time to read or listen to my book. I mean, they're working 2 jobs, and like I say, the fraud is pretty sophisticated. And so it's tough for those folks, but collectively we're all getting smarter, and collectively, things like your show and the internet and the web are helping to educate people, and guess what? These guys' days are numbered. Bitcoin is a gift, I think, to us that is really going to help us, shut the old system down.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it's not too late then to get in on Bitcoin.
Not at all. Oh gosh, no. I mean, Bitcoin's going to multiple millions of dollars per coin. It's at 100,000 right now.
Yeah, and you still like gold too.
I do. Gold will do
because
fine.
You kind of started in gold and gold miners and.
You must remember pre-2008, if you believed in sound money, big deal, and it serves. I think it serves everybody's interest to pay attention, because I think if you're aware of it and you decide, I'm going to blow it off, I'm not even going to pay attention. I think you might wake up in 10 years and go, oh my God, I heard about that thing, I didn't pay attention, and now I've really got regret. My friend bought it for 100,000. These things are worth $2 million a coin. I think that's going to happen. I know that sounds crazy, but I think it's going to happen. Max Kaiser was telling me to buy it at $2. And I'm saying, Max, you're nuts.
I remember seeing 300 and thinking, oh, it's so expensive.
Right. Exactly. And I know Max thought he paid too much because Trace Meyer bought it for 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my first at 300, and I bought it all the way up. I paid 65 for it recently, before, and I'll when I get some more cash out of something else, I'll probably buy it for 110. So a lot of the world goes through their life kind of financially afraid. Am I going to be okay? And once you really understand what Bitcoin is and how it works, you kind of go, oh, wow, I am going to be okay. I can actually save and it'll be enough. It'll work for me. I know it will. And now that takes a deep level of understanding, but that'll happen. I also think we'll allocate capital more properly. And, I think there's a chance that wars will be decreased. Wars, a big theme of the book, and I show it in the history and all. Government has a hard time paying for wars. Are expensive and destructive. There's nothing good about a war, right? You destroy shit and people die, and that's all bad. And so, and so if the government were to come to us and say, hey, we want to hold a war, and by the way, you're going to have to send us half your wealth so we can do it. Well, they'd have a revolution on their hands. Nobody would do that, right? But they say, we want to throw a war, and we're going to do it with printed money. And so what we're going to do is increase the prices, like they did in World War I. I'm telling you, it's going to be a lot better. It's going to be, one of the advantages I have, Julia, is, and look, the 70s weren't perfect because we had the Vietnam War going on. This country was so much better 40 years ago. And it was a much better, it was kinder, it was gentler, it was more balanced. There wasn't, the wealth inequality. There was a greater level of fairness. It wasn't perfect. That we had to have the civil rights movement, et cetera. But I'm just trying to point out that, a lot of things have gone in the wrong direction as a result of this huge money grab that fiat money has created. You know what I mean? It's just, it's not, and it hasn't been good. It really hasn't. And, if you go back to a fair system, the good guys win. And,